Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's DNA webinar, all about Test the Waters, the latest addition to Reg CF, Reg A Plus equity crowdfunding campaigns. This is strictly about strategies to prep for your Test the Waters campaign. Joined here by my partner, rare occurrence to have us both in a presentation again here, but excited to have Tim Martinez.
Hey, excited to be here and very, very happy to be talking about Test the Waters campaigns.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into some intros. We're going to get into to background here. Basically, we looked at the team. As you may be familiar with our content system here at DNA, we do external presentations on the podcast, internal of different team members on the webinar, and there is no more of a perfect person than Tim to have on this webinar because of his background with consulting over the past 20 years, because of all the experience he has in capital raises, both off and online. Tim, you want to give a bit of your story here to the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So been in and around business for 20 plus years, literally the kid with the lemonade stand and all the way up. So I remember raising capital in the early days by bootstrapping off of credit cards. I remember going to the SBA and applying for $5,000 micro loans. I remember physically asking parents, uncles, my friends' family for money to put into my deals so I can then go and build a business and pay them back on crazy terms that whatever became creative financing. I remember as I got further into my career, I started working on helping companies position themselves for capital raises, writing business plans, working on pitch decks. I remember we used to have to go to downtown Los Angeles library to do research because Google really wasn't a thing in those days. And we would sit there and work on financial models on spreadsheets and calculators and, kind of put together stories on how someone can actually go into the market and raise capital. I do remember the early days of working on PPMs and doing the dog and pony show and shopping around deals and going around to private groups, angels, getting in front of large groups and going to dinners and bring a little one sheet in the jacket and trying to hit someone with the one sheet on why they should invest into our deal. So I've been around the whole landscape. I did fall into investment banking for a period of time and did the very traditional bang on phones for, 20 hours a day. It seemed like days never end, and we would just call every person under the sun that we thought had money that we can grab money from. So I've seen the entire landscape of working with private equity, venture capital, angel groups, individuals, debt financing, the whole landscape. And that's why I'm so excited about equity crowdfunding, because it's an entirely new way to raise capital, a way that we could have never even imagined would be possible 20 years ago to do it. And quite frankly, it's a lot more fun.
Exactly. These tools really amplify all of those traditional efforts that Tim just outlined there. If you're able to get that traction, showcase it now online, there is so much more that is possible. And we've been seeing the effectiveness of these campaigns increase significantly since the pandemic started, actually. March 2020 had already been trending up for a year, 2 years before that as well, too, since it took into effect in May 2016 for Reg CF, slightly before for Reg A Plus, and a few years earlier, Reg D online became more popular. But there are these limitations in terms of what could be done, how you could do it. You were not allowed to mention the offering before it was physically live on a portal. As you could see on why this is so important, it was basically a secret until the day you were live on Start Engine, WeFunder, Republic, any of these platforms years back. Now you can do a pre-launch campaign, which is huge from a marketing perspective. You think of film premieres. I like to reference an iPhone release or a sneaker launch and people lined up around the block. That's all a result of the pre-launch marketing and getting people excited, even infatuated with that date, with the release, with the exclusivity to be involved. Test the waters even involves reservations, and we'll speak about that, how we've seen reservations transfer over in the past. Of course, the amounts have increased, so many groups are now shooting at multiple seven figures, 2-3 million, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million. So this head start into it is a very big deal. Also going to speak a bit about reward crowdfunding fundamentals and how this plays an effect here. But overall, to create a groundswell of issuers, you get to a campaign, there's $1,000 raised, $10,000 raised, feels like an empty restaurant. You don't know why more people aren't involved. You don't know why more people are not there. Is there something that you don't know? It just leaves so many question marks, where if there's that strength in numbers, and every time as an investor you get to an offering page, the raise amount has increased, the amount of investors who has participated has gone up, that gives more of that line around the block type of feel to it. Tim, what are your thoughts towards pre-launch? What are your thoughts towards what Test the Waters makes available?
Yeah, I think for me, just practically speaking, it's a really simple way to dip your toe in the water without making such a massive commitment. Going through the process of getting a portal, filing your Form C, telling everybody under the sun that to come on in and raise capital. It's just a simple way in the door that's not as scary. And it really literally does allow you to test the waters to kind of see what the sentiment is out there in the market before you fully jump in. So I know we're going to talk more about that whole strategy of how to fully jump in with test the waters, but just practically speaking, I know we speak to a lot of issuers that are, just trying to figure out whether or not this is the right move for them, right? Whether or not this could really work for them. And this just allows them an opportunity to do so, whereas previously they didn't have that opportunity.
Exactly. And we'll see a lot of issuers, a lot of founders looking at their needs, why they need this capital to begin with, and they want to hop right in. They want to just start running advertising or email a bunch of accredited investors and believe that may give the lift needed to hit their $1 million, $5 million goal quickly. We simply see that to not be the case in the majority of situations. We've been involved with Reg CFs that have completed in 1 week, and using a lot of professional networks outside of that. But more commonly, it is a 2-month or longer process. We've been involved in Reg CFs that take 12 months, even for 1.07 million successfully, but over that period of time. And a plan being a consistent aspect of any successful campaign. There's a quote we use a lot: failing to plan is planning to fail. Do not neglect taking a roadmap type of approach to how you're going to hit your goals, and working backwards from your end date to what needs to take place for that result to come to fruition in a timeline, dating all the way back to week 1. Ensure your brand and offerings are in order is an important aspect to pre-launch as well too. Build and test strategies that will create a buzz, be able to ramp up those channels that are working best during your live campaign, and do whatever you can to get an excited audience, transfer your emotion towards the value of this equity to your prospective audiences, and look to get individuals who want to participate right out of the gate. I'll add that for an Indiegogo or Kickstarter campaign years back, you would use pre-launch to produce a third of your goal in the first 24 hours of the live campaign. And Indiegogo, Kickstarter's teams would emphasize to us when we speak with them how important that was. And if that didn't take place, there was a 70, 80% chance that that campaign would fail. It's a 30-day window on a reward campaign, so different, but that same practice resonates very heavily here in equity crowdfunding. We used to audience build without priming. We were compliant for equity crowdfunding campaigns before this. Now we could physically mention the offering, and similar to what has worked in reward crowdfunding for years, in equity crowdfunding, do a massive pre-launch that produces 10,000 interested investors and potentially gets 200 of those people to transact in day 1. At $1,000 average investment, that could be 200 grand in day 1, week 1, and a great head start towards your goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one thing to add there is that you're really just getting ready for prime time, That's the big takeaway. You know, the actual live campaign is prime time. A lot of the same tactics and strategies are going to apply here, but if you can get your hand around how to really do your test the waters campaign, when you go live, it's just going to become more intense. That's just simply what it's going to be. It's going to be a lot of action, a lot of activity, a lot of conversations. So this is kind of like your crawl, walk, run approach.
100%. And as you're seeing it working, taking it to larger and larger scale. But dial your brand first. Clarify why, and build your brand's story in terms of what an audience is going to perceive. So clarify your why and your brand story. A lot of investors have an emotional connection to the founder for an early stage position, particularly on an equity crowdfunding campaign. $100, $500 minimum amounts are generally included in the filing, somewhere in that range. It could be a retail investor putting in $100, and it's more than just the use of proceeds and the projections. Very important, but the team, not to compete, which one is arguably what makes the decision take place, but the team allows these different parties to invest based on that connection. They want to connect with the backstory and ethos that appeals to their sense of self. It also reflects what they're reading in the news and different headlines that are in the market today, and making that investment in that industry exciting, but ultimately a sense of connection to the founder, to the team, is a consistency when we're interviewing investors on why they are taking part in these deals.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, different investors invest for different reasons. We're talking about retail investors primarily. We're not talking about your hedge fund guys or your venture capitalists. We're talking about groups that are most likely going to put in somewhere between $500 to $1,000 per investment. Now, it can scale up depending, but most of these people are looking for some kind of connection, some kind of cool factor, something to tell their friend about, like, hey, actually, I just put some money into this water company or into this crypto, right? So they want to have some story about it. And that's why the story is so important, because the clearer we can tell our story, the more that the investor can own that story and then convey it to someone else.
Exactly. It's not just about getting the investor to understand your offering. It's getting the investor to understand your offering to the point that they can they can share it to people that they know. That is the ultimate goal here. And again, what we find as a consistent factor when looking at equity crowdfunding campaigns as a whole. And trying to share my screen here, and it is not popping up. But being able to have it dialed to that point. I also want to get into building a brand story, the story brand, and determining the questions on why. Tim, you want to speak to the story brand a bit, and the type of reflection we look from our clients' campaigns, their brand, and following those type of guidelines?
Absolutely. So there was actually a book published called How to Build a Story Brand by, I believe his name is Donald Miller. We use it widely at our agency. In many cases, we just buy a stack of those books and hand them out. I've handed them to a lot of clients, and Donald Miller will take a 10% for that endorsement. But no, seriously, it's a really good book. And essentially what it does is it talks about how to build a brand as if you're writing a script, and using the main actor of your movie as your hero, and then telling a hero's journey of how the hero has a problem and they find a guide. Think of Luke Skywalker and Yoda, right? And then he's challenged, and the Empire is going to be taken over unless Luke acts. Well, if you apply those same storylines into your brand and you look at your customer as the hero, in many cases, the brands consider themselves the hero. So what you'll hear a lot of times in the language of a brand is, hey, I'm so great. Give me your money. Don't worry about where it's going to go. We're awesome and we'll spend it wisely. But here's some more fodder. Here's some just nebulous content. And you should like it because we're awesome. Again, just take it and give us a few $100, right? Whereas if you flip it and you talk about the needs, the desires, the wants, your Maslow's hierarchy of needs, from the investor standpoint. What is it that they want? They're the hero. They're looking to put their money to work. They want to make an investment into something that's going to make a difference. They want to know that their money and their dollars are going to make an impact. They want to see a logical path towards how the money goes in and then physically hits milestones and physically makes a difference and actually attracts customers and gets customer satisfaction and starts to build the flywheel effect. If you put yourself inside of the investor's mind and think, okay, they're not just looking to give me money, they're looking to make an impact with every dollar. It's kind of there's a scenario I run, which is, hey, Jason, give me $1, right? In many cases, these issuers are saying, hey, I know you don't know me, but give me $1. Give me $100. What they don't tell you is, give me the $100. I'm going to use it to build a well. Give me $100. I'm going to use it to build a well so kids can be fully hydrated and they actually don't have to worry about hydration. And then they can worry about, building a better life for themselves. So give me $100 because I'm going to help kids build a better life. What is it that you do? We help kids build a better life, right? And then you work that all the way back. And for only $100, you can make an impact on the lives of millions of children versus saying, hey, we're awesome. Give us $100, right? You got to go deeper. You got to go into the hero's journey. You got to look at their problems, their solutions, and you, the brand, the issuer, really are the guide. And that's the key here, right? You're guiding them along the path of how their money's going to make an impact and how they're going to make the world a better place and how we're all going to feel good about it and make some money along the way.
Exactly. And the book, which has workshops associated, uses Star Wars as an example where Luke Skywalker meets Obi-Wan Kenobi. So Luke has a problem. His planet's attacked. He meets Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi gives him a plan. That gives them a call to action. They're going after, the Republic together. That results in, different situations where there's tragedy, there's comedy. Luke's going up against his teacher at some point, but really trying to envision your prospective investors as the hero in the marketing funnel, the marketing campaign is really a shift and a game changer at that in terms of how to structure the narrative, structure the funnel direction, and what landing pages they're seeing next, and empowering to the audience. Next, I want to go into personal brand. We'll see founders shy away from the limelight at times, and it's so important. Both Tim and I are big educational junkies at that, constantly quoting Tim Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, Seth Godin. Gary Vee talks about the personal brand and is an example himself. Ryan Folan, four-time TEDx speaker, friend of mine, mentioned on the podcast about how the personal brand pulls the business's brand. And that is definitely a commonality when you look at successful campaigns and equity crowdfunding. The second reason investors invest is because they believe in the leadership. The leadership team needs to show authority and thought leadership in the brand's niche to garner investor confidence. If you have an active founder who's posting every day on social, being featured by various different publishers, speaking at events and or digital events these days on a regular basis, it really stands out. We've had clients featured as a Forbes 30 under 30. We have other clients receive a list of different accolades, and that all shows momentum and increases the FOMO from an investor who's on the fence and now sees how likely these goals are going to be obtained by the founder.
Yeah. I'm split on this one. I personally feel that in 2021, you have no option but to be a loud founder. Honestly, that's sincerely how I feel. If you're the CEO of an organization, you're out there trying to raise capital and you're unwilling to get out public facing. Because if you think about your large, Fortune 500s and Fortune 100s, we all know who the CEOs are in most cases. It's not like it's some mystery, right? So why would someone not want to get out in front to their investors and say, hey, this is who I am. This is my journey. This is my story. Tell me about the late nights that you had for years. Tell me about your ability to inspire and motivate investors and strategic partners and build teams and build products and all that fun stuff, right? So Is it possible to raise capital if you're not a front and center entrepreneur or CEO? Yes, absolutely. It happens all the time, right? I'm making an extreme case here, but how much better is it if you raise the money and you were front and center? Some people say, well, I'm not great on camera. I'm not good on the mic. I don't photograph well. Look, maybe those are all valid reasons, maybe, but we're trying to raise money here and we're asking people to part with their hard-earned dollars and we don't want to show them our face. There's a problem with that, right? You really have to ask yourself as a CEO, why don't you want to be front and center? Why don't you want your voice to be heard? And then you have to deal with those issues on your own merit. Like I said, you could probably raise the money without being a front and center CEO, but how much better if you really are out there? I mean, let's take Apple, right? Imagine we never saw Steve Jobs, ever. Would Apple be Apple? Probably. They have a pretty dang good product. But how much better is Apple? Because we know the chaos that ensued with Steve Jobs. It just makes the product more fun. It just adds this extra layer to the story, adds a little more edge. And also don't forget this, competition exists. Full stop. You're in a competitive landscape. You, Mr. CEO, are fighting with all the other CEOs out there that are trying to raise capital. So if I don't know who you are, quite frankly, I probably don't care about you. If I can't see you, if I don't hear you, if I don't hear your voice in my head, but if I'm hearing like, oh man, Joe Schmo, right, is just the leading advocate of all things, whatever, SaaS, and he's a thought leader, and he's constantly hitting me with value and knowledge, and I can get behind this guy because I could tell there's something about this guy intuitively that is not going to quit until he gets his money. And he's not going to quit until he becomes a multi-million-dollar company and hits an IPO by which I get my money out. I had a dinner with some very high-end venture capitalists, and I said, hey, what is it out of all the things that you look to first when you make an investment? Is it intellectual property? Is it market opportunity? What is it? And he says, Tim, I put my money into teams and I put my money into CEOs, people. Put my money into people first, and then I look at everything else. So that really should be a case for why you should build a personal brand.
Exactly. And when we talk to investors who participated in our clients' deals, they reference the CEO on why. They say it's Don Dixon at Popcom, it's Andrew Yakub at Rayton, it's Jeremy Barnett at Rad Intelligence in their response for the most part every time. So do not underestimate how powerful this approach is. And when you're looking at how do you build a personal brand online, professional networks such as LinkedIn are a focal point. Seek your personal branding with your company branding. They should definitely mirror. Share your company's content, including major milestones and traction you've hit so far. Again, you want to create that fear of missing out. You want to showcase this moving train and have others want to join. Make sure it's loud and clear. Create white papers and articles around your business and promote them through LinkedIn. You'll get into their algorithm, rank higher, and be displaying thought leadership all the way through. You will appear as an expert in your growing industry. Engage with other thought leaders on LinkedIn by liking, commenting, and sharing their content. Look at some other competitors and how their comment boards are full and who's joining that discussion from your vertical. Optimize your page with recommendations. Give recommendations to help social capital and inspire others to give recommendations to you. Again, you always want that dialogue to continue. You always want to have that type of traction displayed, and connect with investors through LinkedIn Sales Navigator and LinkedIn Outreach Strategy. We've done other webinars on outreach and how you could connect with very high-level angel investors, VCs, direct them to your deal, and they want to speak to the founder. They want to speak to the CEO. They want to talk to someone at the top who's going to be able to answer any other questions like that and is a esteemed personality in your space.
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn, very important. I highly recommend anyone watching this that has any interest in LinkedIn outreach to find our other, maybe we could just do a little pop-up click here and takes you to that video. But yeah, we did a great webinar on how to use LinkedIn to not only build a brand, but generate one-to-one conversations with angels and investors while you're doing an active campaign.
Number three, nurture your first degree connections. It is a red flag to us when a founder says, we just want money from new people. We've already worked our personal network. There's no one else to go after. It again goes against that forefront leader who's doing whatever they can to make it happen. They're going to hit their goals no matter what. And there's always more value to be had in first degree connections. This could include colleagues, friends, families of your business, venture and potential angel contacts that you've had discussions with. We've seen founders get in contact with people from high school. They were over the age of the average founder, not to throw any numbers on it, and people they hadn't contacted in 25 plus years. We funder Justin Renfro's playbook would say, put together a list of 200 first degree connections that includes all these different types of individuals. This is your groundswell. We're talking pre-launch. You want them showing up at these stages. Day one, week one, they're likely going to be heavy contributors. So do not underestimate the power of your existing crowd. That is the tables that are going to be full in your restaurant, and the line outside is going to be looking at those parties. It also says something if you don't have your first degree connections investing. Why isn't this guy's family investing? Why not their friends? Why isn't he networking with different types of entrepreneur groups in a given city, in the next nearby city, online, whatever it may be? I've seen founders do field marketing at the Santa Monica Promenade outside of an accelerator there and bring on investors. You should be so excited to share this investment opportunity. Anyone who doesn't get involved without making any forward-looking statements, of course, could potentially miss out on a massive exponential growth here of their position. So anyone really needs to understand what you're doing, the value of them participating and how it feeds into the traction of the campaign as a whole, and be enrolled to become part of the team, to become an ambassador.
Yeah, absolutely. Early in my career, one of the greatest values that I ever got was getting shot down. And not getting shot down once, getting shot down, dare I say, thousands of times, right? Asking for money amongst multiple people and having them say no, and then coming back and saying, okay, well, let's break this apart. What part of the business are you not comfortable with? How do I up your comfort level, right? Because it's one thing to say, yeah, you should talk to everyone in your personal network. But as you know, sales are going to need somewhere between 7 to 10, even maybe more touch points to close any deal. Whether you're closing a cousin who's wealthy and you're asking them for 20 grand, or closing a business partner, you need multiple touch points. So if you ask someone for money and they say no, don't stop there. Keep going. Ask them 7 more times for the money. Eventually, you're either going to have a really strong reason as to why they're not buying in, or they're going to give you the cash. Either way, you're going to get some value. So if they say, well, look, I'm not fully sold that the market opportunity is there. All right, Mr. CEO, a showtime. You now need to pull out the stats and show why this is going to trend and why you're going to corner the market, right? So there's a lot of value just going through this first degree level. I always started with a hit list, a 100, top 100. Pull up a spreadsheet. 200 is great. By the time you get to like 83, 84, it starts to, be a little challenging. But, getting your list to 100 and then seriously color coding them and saying, okay, I'm going to either get a yes or a no from every single person. I'm not going to move them off my list till they physically give me a yes or a no. I'm not going to accept maybe. I'm going to have to physically have them look me right in the eyes and say, no, Tim. And most likely, if you've been in sales for any period of time, you know that no means not yet in many cases. They just need to get their comfort level up. So therefore, you ask questions like, well, okay, I understand maybe you're not in on round 1, but what is it that I can show you to get you in on round 2? What is it that you need to see? What milestones do I need to hit? And if I am able to hit those milestones, can I get a verbal commitment that you will give me the money if I hit those milestones? In many cases, reasonable people with the money that aren't pulling your leg, because you have to disqualify people if they're just simply not serious. But people that have the intent and have the capabilities to pull the trigger, they'll say, okay, well, I'll tell you what, get maybe $100,000 in. If you can show me you can get the first 100,000, then I'm in for 20. Awesome. That's all I need. Right. Because then I go leverage that to the next person. Hey, help me get 100 because I already have commitments for another 100 after this thing. So you start learning how to do this thing. And CEOs, in many cases, are raising money the entire time. They kind of never stop raising money. Um, you can leave comments below if you think I'm crazy, but there's multiple rounds, right? You have your friends and family, you have your seed capital, Series A, Series B, Series D, IPO. You're just going to go on and on and on, right? So getting comfortable with raising money and asking people for capital, especially in a test the waters campaign, you're just like getting into the game, and it's really good exercise to nurture your first degree leads, ask them why, get the verbal commitments, and bang on the phone until you get your yes.
And you're going to get a higher conversion rate from this numbers game with your first degree connections. The cold audience is not going to participate the same way. 10%, 20% type closing rates in historical metrics, let alone in this type of space, could be 20 to 40 from your first degree connections. Either way, they're far more invested to see you succeed because they have that personal relationship. And I also ask them, is there anyone else you could share this with? Maybe they post on social media, maybe they send an email out, but I like direct contact. If they call a few of their friends or do a text introduction or something along those lines, those are warm prospects to be had. You never know where a conversation could lead. It could lead to business strategic partnership from there. We've seen investors come in even outside of first degree where they're bringing this strategic partnership to the table. So how can you nurture these connections? Put emails list together is one recommendation that we have. Send them biweekly emails, as Tim's preaching there. It's all about the frequency, touch point 7 or more in many cases. To invite friends to a barbecue, you probably need to send 3-4 different messages. It doesn't happen just from one blast going out unless that cohort's really synced. But content to consider on these emails, your new venture and why you started it. Let them really connect. Share your mission and vision, the importance of raising capital, and what a small investment means for the venture. Any and all updates of the business traction, particularly in latter emails, you want to be able to show, guess what we're doing now? Look at this deal we just closed. Check out breakthroughs in our technology. We've brought on 100 reservations to test the waters. All of that goes a long way for the storyline.
Yeah, and one last thing to add on that is, and you mentioned it about asking who else can you share this with. A lot of people like to help. I'm not going to say all, but in many cases, people like to help, right? So for me, because we get presented with so many opportunities, I say, look, I may not have what you, but I probably know 5 to 10 people that I can at least take a phone call with you. Maybe those people have money. Maybe they're just good mentors and they can give you feedback on your pitch deck. Maybe they are strategic partners. They might want to go into business with you once things get off the ground. So, there's never any harm in having these conversations and then following up with that question, like, okay, if you aren't the right party, can you please put me in contact with, 3 or 4 other people within your network that you think I can get some value out of having a conversation with.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And again, don't be bashful. There should be a list of people you're outreaching to every day during the campaign. No different during the test the waters here. Arguably should be pushing it to even more intensity levels during these early stages. Dial in your pitch deck. So your pitch deck becomes your offering page. The offering page I often see go through pretty transformational changes during the Test the Waters campaign, at least since we've seen in our experiences since March 15th. But before that too, before a page goes public and is really promoted, you have to show your investors stuff. This is designed to be the focal point of your campaign. This is a democratization of investment opportunities. So, ultra high net worth as well as retail participating at minimum levels should be presented with the exact same information, which is why this presentation is so important on your offering page. These are some of the historical pitch deck elements, the story, the product, valuation, investment capital and use of proceeds, the market opportunity, the marketing strategy, team, being able to have all of these pieces that are key highlights, drivers of other successful campaigns in the portal that you're going to run on today is definitely recommended. It should be visual, it should be polished. If somebody's scrolling through on their phone, they are then motivated to go back and read some of the details and get a deeper dive on everything. Look at digital best practices, landing page, hints in terms of social proof and having enough third-party validation layered in at each section of the page, and make your brand seem like an opportunity that cannot be missed.
Yeah, absolutely. And pitch decks are just one step in the due diligence process. There are many steps in the due diligence process, kind of like we spoke about 7 touch points to close a deal. If you look at raising capital as just a sales process, a sales cycle, and you have to have 7 individual touch points, running someone through your pitch deck is just simply one step. And then you're going to get to the next step and the next step. In most cases, someone's going to look at your pitch deck and say, yeah, that's pretty good. I like what you're putting here in front of me. You got a business plan? You have any due diligence materials? You have some additional market research I could take a look at? Can you walk me through your financial model, right? They're going to start going through that. So I've seen people waste, oh man, months working on a pitch deck, making sure that, it's the most beautiful thing, thinking that they're going to have this pitch deck and then they're going to raise $1 million off the pitch deck alone, right? Yeah, you want it to look presentable. You want it to be nice and coherent, but really it's just one piece of a much larger process that you need to put together. So I would say keep it tight, keep it to a handful of bullets, keep it really succinct, and you want the pitch deck to lead to more questions. Now, what we do with equity crowdfunding with our offering pages is that those are pitch decks in theory, right? They're just kind of scrolling pitch decks. So it all really kind of works together because we're going to use that content off the pitch deck and put it into social posts, video, ads. We're going to be pulling off value propositions. So there's a lot of value that gets created just off of working on that pitch deck. But I would say, understand that it is one piece of a larger puzzle that you're going to use to get you the capital.
Exactly. And during these test the water stages, if you see any type of underperforming sections of your page when looking at the analytics, now is the time to optimize. Use this as a test period. Again, pre-launch was more typical for a reward campaign. We would go through various iterations. Love looking at the pitch deck concept offline too. Tim and I worked on, I was like referencing a capital raise offline back in 2010. Successful, 7 figures, I may add, but over 75 edits to the pitch deck itself. And a strenuous process. This whole medium of equity crowdfunding really streamlines that and makes it more efficient across the board. As Tim was saying, tight, but get something down there, work off what you have, and take it to the next level on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and before you jump ahead, just one last bit. I reference Guy Kawasaki's 10-20-30 rule. Just do a simple Google. He talks about the 10 slides that should be in every pitch deck. There are many ways you can create a pitch deck, but I tend to stick to his 10 because they're very simple. You can also do a search. I think it's on SlideShare. You can physically see the actual pitch decks from Uber and all these different major organizations that have gone to become unicorns. You can actually see the pitch deck. They're published. So if you're looking for tidbits, or maybe you're in an industry similar to another industry, you can actually look at a lot of competitor pitch decks out there. It's a good research tool.
And you have your offering page built here, from your pitch deck that's put into the platform as your offering page. You have your communications to first degree connections started, but we now need to start talking about marketing. So what's going to happen when the campaign's live? How can you front load that and test out some of those channels during the test the waters? Before activating any one tactic, I would map out the larger picture with a strategy. We have a system called the 8-point plan. written about it with various publishers. We've done past webinars on it. Definitely recommend checking those out. It's a straightforward system that's research heavy, industry overview, competitor marketing audit. It builds the framework, target audience, marketing channels, creative, and maps out some direct outreach with strategic partnerships, and then all goes into numbers. The only way to measure is with these type of metrics. So we put together projections for each channel consisting of 3 stages: impressions, clicks, and conversions. That way, if something is under delivering, we could pinpoint it quicker. We can identify what is a key driver quicker again and scale it. So that's really where it all begins. You can have metrics for how large you want your audience to be during the pre-launch. You could test all this out, optimize it before you're actually live, and really, make an efficient approach towards your launch. It's the perfect time to test. You could optimize the paths to the highest ROI based on the reservation value, creating a calendar of what's going to be posted when and where during these pre-launch stages, as well as once your campaign is actually live, is a step that we see many failing campaigns neglect. Alternatively, the most successful issuers are completely buttoned up and have this, in various spreadsheets with sub-documents. Planning is king, while also making it easier to plan, create, distribute, and promote content. It all starts here.
Yeah, make no mistake about it. Ask any founder who's gone through the entire process and hit their goal. They will tell you it was a lot of work, a lot of coordination, a lot of moving parts, lots of effort. It's just what it is. So knowing that and getting into it, yeah, have a detailed plan. Know what's going to happen every day, every week, every month, every quarter. Don't let it just kind of happen by happenstance, right? Just kind of going on without you knowing about it, right? You should be in control. Control the controllables. You can control a plan. You can control, how much content you produce and pump out on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Be in the control position. You'll feel better for it, and your team will thank you for it.
Control the controllables. Such a perfect way to put it. Because for marketing, there's so many inherent obstacles, things that are outside of reach. But if you are effectively managing the controllables, you are in a good place and can optimize those. But understanding what you can and can't control, we try to do a very good job of making those distinctions with clients before launching campaigns. For more information on the strategy, this deck will be available to anyone who emails us. The 8-point marketing plan, the webinar, all right here. You could follow our content marketing checklist that our head of content marketing, Damaris Morse, has brilliantly put together. I say that because I know all of the background that went into it and how many revisions took place to really get it mastered. So here's a direct checklist available to you. Watch the corresponding webinar there and make sure everything is set up for a plan, a roadmap that looks to be a safe bet in terms of success, looks to be maximizing all resources and really utilizing everything at hand to better the chances of success. We're now going to get into marketing channel launch. We're going to focus on press here and reference a few other channels. Why are we going to focus on publishers? Because social validation, social proof, any type of third-party reference really goes a long way from a cold audience who knows nothing about you. Those active founders that are winning publisher placements every day, being able to feature that during the test the water stages or in the early weeks of your campaign can be groundbreaking. So why does your business need press? To create just that, the featured on section in your campaign to show that there's something going on here. People care about this. This could be disruptive. It could be new. It could be different. For whatever reason, these reputable influencers, I may say, these reputable narratives in the space in terms of top tier publishers are talking about it. So being able to obtain that, put it on your offering page, out of the gate on Test the Waters during that pre-launch period or in the early stages of your campaign is crucial.
Yeah, and there's also micro publishers as well as macro publishers. If you just think about the bloggers, chances are there are bloggers in your space. Very high possibility. I'd imagine in every vertical, there's some blogger out there on Substack or Medium or WordPress, pumping out content, and they have solid followings. There's publishers out there on podcasts. There's publishers out there, large media sources. So again, back to the hit list. Make a hit list of 50 to 100 various publishers out there, and just begin the one-to-one outreach process. Reach out to them, make an introduction. Um, Tell them who you are and what you're looking for, and be transparent and say, we got the next level XYZ tech. We know that your audience is interested in things of that nature, and we'd love to either get a press release posted here, do an interview. A lot of publishers like to pay to play, and that's okay, right? And if they have pay models, just say, do you have sponsored content? Like, how do we work together is the primary question, right? I want our business featured on your site. How do we make that happen? And then bang on the door of literally everybody. Literally everybody asks that same question. 100, 200, 500 publishers, just never stop. Eventually somebody's going to pick you up.
We're from the old school world of smile and dial.
Smile and dial.
Do not give up. 50 a day does not compare to what reps would have to engage in on a daily basis years back. So creating that list, determining who you're reaching out to when. LinkedIn we've found to be a great medium to engage these targets. Twitter for writers is also a great place. There's some resources on sites such as info at and the publisher's name. You want to be able to put together messaging that is captivating, as Tim had mentioned, really resonates with whoever you're speaking to. There are some different hacks. A press release, as an example, it's not going to give you the traction that you need measured by Test the Waters reservations. However, it will give you overnight publishers' logos that you can place on your page. So if we hear a startup say, hey, no press has ever featured us, here's a quick way about it, while we're going after quality with this wish list of macro, as Tim had stated, publishers, while going after micro, more of mid-tier business sites, low-tier blogs. We probably get 10 inquiries a week for different link providers. There's some ways to engage in features and guest type situations there, but we wouldn't recommend going down more of SEO tactics of paid links. But there's always something to explore, if nothing else, just for research, where you're getting an idea of all the publishers in a space and then you reach out to them directly. A lot of the times that's what we're doing because we do manual outreach. Tim had mentioned podcasts. Listen notes, great to find relevant podcasts to be a guest on, and frequency is important here. Basically, all the channels go hand in hand. So if you're doing a weekly email newsletter, you can talk about which podcasts you were featured on, which writers talked about you, who syndicated your press release. You want to have something to add to those updates that's exciting, that shows that forward momentum on an ongoing basis. You can post this to the platforms. Start Engine, WeFunder, all of the platforms at this point have some way to put an update in. They'll often choose their email newsletter, who they're featuring from updates, the most meaningful ones that are occurring on the update sections of their platform. You want all of your content channels to go hand in hand, and if you're able to point to this press, it is often more impressive than just using your voice, being able to show the third-party voice. Also, this is a time when you want to begin testing other channels. So we're focused on press here. You heard me mention email. We talked about a blog there, having a regular blog to showcase thought leadership. You could start looking at a monthly webinar and having some findings during the test the water stages, almost as a test run before you move over to the live campaign, being able to see what worked, what didn't work across any activation is important. Advertising can begin at these stages, whether you're advertising to some type of lead form and stacking your email signups, or advertising the traffic to the Test the Waters page. I will say that it'll be a small percentage of the reservations that turn into completed investments during the first month, maybe 10 to 30%. But having those reservations, being able to test out the ad channels, measuring a cost per acquisition of each investor, it is very, very valuable as an exercise. Any type of direct outreach, as we were mentioning on LinkedIn to investors, you want to test any channel that you're going to have live. You want to bridge any relationships that you're trying to put together in publishers during the test run of the Test the Waters. This is when you validate what's working, what's not, and what you're going to focus on, what you're going to ramp up during the live campaign. And getting to the bottom line here, you can have the best investment opportunity in the market, but nothing matters if that opportunity falls on deaf ears. Without that awareness, you're not going to get to the midsections of the funnel, consideration, intent. Certainly not going to get to conversion. So do whatever you can to amplify. It is a numbers game. I'll say it again. Make sure you have a large enough volume of people who know about the deal to then have a suitable amount of people that are going through your page, going through your funnel, going through later sections to get an effective amount, a necessary amount of conversions to complete your raise based on average investment values. Make sure the volume of investors is there. Understand there's a conversion rate at every step of the funnel there, and make it all happen during the Test the Waters. We're looking at clients that want to be at $1 million, $3 million by the time they get out of Test the Waters to set them up for a $5 million raise. You can look at those exact same increments for yourself.
Yeah, and I always like to use exaggerated examples. This would be an example of, letting everybody in the world know how awesome your offering is. If you had a machine that could turn water into gold, right? You would tell literally everybody that you have this machine that turns water into gold. You wouldn't feel weird about asking for the money. You wouldn't feel off about approaching publishers or influencers or getting strategic partners, looking for distribution, talking to the biggest groups in the world, calling the president. Like, you would not feel odd about any of that because your machine is going to turn water into gold. You would feel it in your core, in your gut. Your materials would say, we're turning water into gold. You would hit the pavement so hard. And the people that you spoke to, right? My brother would talk to everybody in his network and say, hey, guess what? My brother's machine turns water into gold. All he needs is $100. The second he gets to $1 million, he's going to take that money and then distribute it in the world to become a better place, right? Whatever that thing is. So we should feel that visceral about every offering. You specifically, Mr. Issuer, Mrs. Issuer, CEO, you need to feel it in your core. It needs to resonate and to vibrate at a certain level to where when people come in contact with your energy and your offering, that they go, whoa, 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 this needs to happen. This has to happen. Absolutely. Here's my money. Absolutely. Let's feature you, right? Now, again, exaggerated case here. But the point being is we should all hit the market with that kind of intensity.
Absolutely. It is that sentiment that we try to install in every founder that we speak with. Don't be bashful. A large agency owner with a major exit early in my career said that to me as a quote. Do not be bashful. Don't be bashful to contact me at this level. Don't be bashful to go after the investors, the publishers. Hit it hard. The quicker you're able to hit your goal, the better. Not even to mention the success rates. When you look at 1,000 Reg CFs before March 15th, only 220 surpassed the 7-figure level. And that's when the goal is at 1.07. 80% did not reach those benchmarks. So don't sell yourself short. Really do everything it is within your power. Pre-launch, test the waters. We're throwing all these channels at it. Live campaign, we're going after the best channels. We're We're doing it at scale. We want to hit and surpass our internal goal, external goal. We want to get to exactly where we need to go based on the filing as quick as possible. Don't let it stretch out. Know what's working, know what's not. Hit everyone in your network, ask everyone to talk to, everyone that they know. They're missing out on the opportunity. You're doing a disservice to them if you do not mention it. Like Tim's example, water to gold, you should settle for nothing less. I like to use a hoverboard example myself, but it's the same type of deal. Treat your business as if it is the water to gold scenario. And as we're wrapping up here, want to see if there's any questions that we could answer. Please feel free to enter those into the chat. Also, we will be making ourselves, available in terms of coordination and recommendations around your pre-launch. Make sure you're building that with an intent to build an eager audience. The audience size is a key projector of how much you can raise, and launch with the bang. Reach out to us for support. We thank you for tuning in here, but could certainly wrap up with any questions. Feel free to send those to us individually as well too. I see a question here about timeline. How long should a pre-launch campaign exist? How long should test the waters typically take? Tim, you want to talk about duration?
Yeah. So building an email list is a big thing. It's a very big thing. We didn't really address much of that. Building an audience, a pre-launch audience is very important. I don't know, my brain goes to the natural 4 to 6 weeks because it's always 4 to 6 weeks. That's kind of the standard, business timeline. But if you're doing it right, you should be able to very successfully put a lot of effort and energy into that window.
Exactly. And you could stretch it out. We use the number 3 a lot. 3 weeks to 3 months is a good range. The 4 to 6 weeks being the most popular right in there. That's typically what they all take. But if for whatever reason reservations aren't high enough, there's something you're altering about the page as you see conversion rates low, audience size is too low, maybe you're at 1,000, you want to be at 5,000 before you physically take it live, extending to 2 months, extending to 3 months can definitely be a good approach, but you don't want to let it stretch out for too long. If you're getting beyond that.
If you think of, let's say the Rolling Stones are going to be at the Hollywood Bowl in 8 months, you're like, that's cool. Like, when it gets a little closer, hey, they're going to be here in 3 months. Yeah, it starts to heat up. Hey, they're going to be here, next month. You're thinking, oh shoot, I kind of need to move. I got to get going. So it's that same sentiment.
It's like when you're at the dentist and they want to give you an appointment for 5 months out. And they give you a time.
Asking to push it 12 months.
Sure, I'm not on vacation that week. And then the week before you get hit with the big meeting and it can't happen. You don't want it to be too far out. You don't want it to stale up. You really got to have an exciting storyline if you're doing 3 months. You can't be doing the same message again and again and again, week 6 through 12. So that's why the content calendar is so important. And we're coming to time here, less than a minute left. I see a few other questions that we'll follow up with one-on-one. Tim, if anyone would like to continue the discussion with you, what's the best way to get in contact?
Sure. My email is T as in Tim Martinez at digitalnicheagency.com. Feel free to shoot me an email, ask any questions, and I will get back to you in a timely manner.
Excellent. I feel very good about the way this is wrapping up. Looking forward to sending a link to some different clients and prospective clients today. If anyone would like a copy of the deck, please email Tim. Please reach out to us through the site. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. And, really can't harp enough how important the Test the Waters campaign is, and excited for you to put together your own plans and roadmaps from here. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone.